Hello and welcome. This is the second episode of the SitRep, where we strive to offer insightful commentary on current affairs. I am joined for the second week by Ali Halami, my friend, a veteran journalist, media expert, and a political analyst. I could add that for you as well.
You are
right. So, Ali, today we're discussing the NCC, the last NCC meeting, which was a week ago. For context, the NCC is not a constitutional body. The NCC is a political arrangement meant for dialogue towards consensus building on national issues.
Yes.
Security, politics, development, and the most important one, elections. But we were all waiting for the communique from the NCC this time round. Even though an integral part of the NCC was missing, Puntland, will come to that in a moment. But let's talk about what was missing in the communique. Elections, timelines. The leaders of the country at the federal and the state level and the Prime Minister met and did not chart the path forward towards elections. Even after Parliament passed laws towards one person, one vote elections. What do you reckon?
First of all, the election was the elephant in the room.
The elephant in the room.
In the room, yes.
Correct.
No one of them wanted to talk about election.
Yeah.
Because, as you said, the NCC is a political arrangement, not a constitutional entity. And also, most of the participators in the meeting, they have no mandate, and they missed their original elections.
3 out of 6.
3 out of 6, yeah. They have the law of mandate.
Yeah.
So they could not have discussed in this situation, which their mandate is ended. They could not discuss it, but so it was compulsory to them, or they take the advantage to divert the issues from the original topic, which is election, to the other main
or maybe they discussed and could not agree on a timeline.
Yes, they could not agree on the timeline because see here, 3 of the participators or FMS members.
Yes. That is Abdulaziz Hassan of Southwest, Ahmed Mudabi of Jubaland, and Ahmed Qorqor of
Galmudug.
Yes.
One of them, his mandate expired 2 years ago. Yeah. One of them 1 year ago. One of them some months ago. Yeah. So none of them can discuss the election timeline or something like that. So I think all of them was buying time.
Okay.
Even the president.
Yes.
So now we are waiting the parliament when it will discuss the party law and forming the election committee or something like that. Maybe they postponed all these issues to what the outcome will be after the amendment of the 4 or 5 chapters of the.
Why is the president buying time? He has a mandate. He was elected 2 years ago. He has 2 years to his mandate.
Yes.
All he had to do was deliver the elections, directly or otherwise, of the federal member states and get done with it. Why does he have to buy time? I can understand if 1 or 2 or 3 of the federal member states president's mandate has lapsed and they want to buy time. But why is the president tied to this buying time thing?
We are in a very delicate political situation.
Correct.
So if president tries to take a fine action or a strong position, he might lose the federal member states leaders.
Yeah.
So he wants to calculate or to balance.
Yeah.
So that is why he's buying the time.
Yeah.
Just to think of another arrangement, or maybe doing some local elections in some federal member states or something like that. He's waiting, to my opinion, he's waiting the appropriate time just to talk about the very, very original.
No, but if the president wants to do something, like we have seen with the 4 chapters of the Constitution, which, by the way, came as a recommendation from the NCC meeting of 2022 May.
Yes.
The president specifically lobbied for it, personally lobbied for it from the houses of parliament and the speakers, and they ensured that these 4 chapters are passed.
Yeah.
His opponents are saying it's because of the his quest for 1 person, 1 vote elections.
Yes.
So if the president wants to move things, he could move things. Don't you think so?
But I think the president is the biggest winner in this meeting, because we see, and it is like they gave him a blank check because they supported what was already reached before. And they said to him, okay, now you go on and you can do whatever you like. So he is the biggest winner in the meeting now. That's why he wanted to reciprocate the situation, or to leave them for some time until he put also another arrangement on the table.
But that's not very appropriate of the president to please the president of the federal member states, and by the way, who have nothing to lose. Their mandates has lapsed, most of them. There's no election timeline, direct or indirect, in their respective member states. So what do they have to lose, actually? From where I sit, they're the winners.
You could say they are the winners, but because their mandate actually has expired, and they are not going in any time soon to go to the elections, and also they are buying time, and they want to entertain the president just to buy time until the right time comes, or when they can take another action or something like that.
Perfect. Let's address
in some perspective, in other perspective, or different perspectives, each party sees that
they're the winners.
Yes.
Like you have perfectly mentioned, let's address the elephant in the room here. It's called elections.
Yes.
In this country. And now the president has one grand quest, which is to deliver 1 person, 1 vote elections in 2026. But here's the puzzle. His predecessor, President Farmajo, also said he will deliver 1 person, 1 vote elections.
Yes.
And the current president, Hassan Sheikh Mohamud, who was in opposition then, came out and said no. Why? Because elections is not an event. Elections, there have to be consensus and political dialogue, and we are the stakeholders as the opposition, and we have to come on board, all of us. This country has to move forward together towards 1 person, 1 vote elections. It's not just a prerequisite of whoever sits in the Villa Somalia to deliver 1 person, 1 vote elections.
Huge.
Now, fast forward, President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud gets elected. He begins by pushing for 1 person, 1 vote elections. And now his predecessor, who is now President Farmajo, in opposition, is saying, no, my friend, we're not going to accept that. We will need political dialogue, and we'll need consensus, and it's a give and take process.
Yes. This is something ironic, really, because we used to have every president who came, for example, when our current president now came to power, he was our former president Farmajo. We came to appreciate, I will hold free and fair elections, direct free and fair elections. But the current president was was leading the main opposition to that, and he was demanding consensus. And now it is vice versa. So this means that the main obstacle of free and fair election and direct elections in Somalia, it's our political leaders.
Okay. So the buck stops with the political leaders, either in power
or in the opposition. Yes.
They are the reason why this country is not moving towards 1 person, 1 vote elections.
Because they used to promise when they came to power the next day, or before they came to power, they promised to hold the direct and fair elections. But when they sit on the power, they say, okay, let us take an arrangement or something like that, and with former president will take the lead again, as we see it now, that we need consensus, something like that.
Back to the NCC communique. There is a point that says that the NCC leaders agreed that they should all work towards implementing the 4 chapters that were passed in Parliament. And by the way, these 4 chapters were very contentious to begin with. It raised a lot of heat and there was a lot of discussion. And former President Farmajo actually said it's not amendments to the constitution, but it's a new constitution.
Yes.
We don't want to delve into that now. These 4 chapters. Now, each member of the NCC signed on the letter. But 3 of them, like you said, don't have the mandate
Yes.
and are not willing to hold elections. So even in the event that they were to hold elections, what form of elections will that be? Will it be direct? Because they signed on the communique that say let's implement the 4 chapters of the Constitution, which stipulates that this country has to move towards one person, one vote elections.
Yes.
Or are we going to say no? During elections in this country, we don't very much follow the Constitution as a political arrangement, and so yes, we signed on that, and yes, we supported the president towards the adoption of the passing of the 4 chapters. Now, let's just hold indirect elections. Is a scenario like that? Would a scenario like that possibly be what we're waiting for in these 3 federal member states?
Really, according to my perception, and according to situation of local federal member states level, there is no direct election that we can calculate or we can assume.
We don't even have the capacity for direct elections now.
Not the capacity.
We don't have the laws.
Not the laws also. Also the timeline.
We don't have the parties.
We don't have everything.
We don't have the election commission.
We missed everything. So at the member state level, it's likely impossible to hold direct elections.
And yet they signed on the communique. And yet they recommended in the last NCC that Parliament has to pass this.
That's a business of the Somali politicians.
Okay.
They sign everything. They do everything. Then when it comes to implementation, they say, "Oh, this is not possible. It's impossible. Let us renegotiate again and take a dialogue and see consultations or something like that." So I hope no one will be deceived to see that is the federal member states or Somali politicians actually will have the actual commitment to implement what they have signed.
And for now, the only possible scenario that you can wait from at least the federal member states is indirect elections.
Is indirect election and consequently a technical extension.
Possible technical extension. Again. For some the 3rd time. For others the 2nd time.
Yes.
For one the 1st time.
And maybe if we go that way, technical the extension after technical extension, that may have it is effect on the federal government itself, because we have now 2 years before the elections.
Correct.
So we have all the necessary requirements to have free and fair and direct elections.
Right.
We don't have census.
Yes.
We don't have voter registration.
Yes.
We don't have the logistics.
No capacity of the elections body.
No elections body also. We are waiting for the parliament law and also the parties law. And more important than that, the will. I doubt if we have the will either in the government federal level or member state level, if we have the will to have direct and free and fair elections in the country in next years to come.
And let me even add this. Actually, the federal government, the FGS, the central government has 1 year, 1 active year of work to deliver that. Because June 2025 election fever is going to be electioneering time.
Yes.
So between June 2025 and May 2026, when the president said he will deliver direct one person, one vote elections, and he said this in the mosque.
Yes.
It's hard for politicians to keep their promises, but this time the president has promised this inside the mosque on a Friday.
Yes.
And it's going to be really hard on him to deliver that because he only has 1 year to deliver everything else before.
See, regardless of the timeline we have.
Yes.
First of all, most of our politicians, especially those who are in power, they usually romanticize the free and fair elections and correct elections. So, it's a good dream. Yes, it's a good dream, but they're romanticizing. They say our Prime Minister and our Minister of Interior says we will dismantle the grand hunger and we will do this and this and this, but there is no actual service on the ground.
What the Prime Minister has said. The Prime Minister will give an address in the hangar.
Yes.
Where his president was elected.
Yes. And he's saying we will dismantle it.
He actually said his last tent
yes.
will not feature in our next elections.
Yes.
What an interesting place to give such a message from. Because he is in the very hangar.
Yeah, that's also the irony of Somali politics.
Yes.
Yeah. In the moment you are in the stage of the original place that your president was elected,
yes,
and you say we will dismantle it in 2 years, and we will go to direct and free and fair election. This is romance.
It's very romantic.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. So let's go back to the elections of the federal member states. Listen, I think there still are friends of the president, people who are close to him,
yes,
and who campaigned with him in his election, in the hope that they could vie at their respective federal member states. But now the president has chosen to stick with the leaders already, the incumbent leaders of the federal member states.
Yes.
He chose to stick with them. Whether it's strategy, whether it's a political fix, whether it's short-term, that's a different argument. But for now, the last 2 years, he stuck with them and offered them technical extensions.
Yes.
A blank check, if you so wish to call it. With that, from where I stand, I think he stands to lose his closest friends, who he might need them in 2026.
Yes. Actually, some movement or maneuver will happen in the next few months to come. Can the president sustain this momentum that he is befriends with all federal members?
And keep the status quo as it is.
As it is.
Okay.
Or the suspicion will arise again, either inside the federal member states or in the president camp.
Yes.
So who will take the first move? The president, who maybe wanted to get rid of some federal member states, leaders, who might have his special arrangements and in the future, in the coming future, or maybe some member states will.
So it's a political chess game.
Have the suspicion, and they might take a special arrangement for them and secret election. Maybe this can happen. Another scenario maybe we will not have any direct and free and fair elections. The president will stay and remain in power as he is, and the federal members also will stay and remain actual extension after extension until we reach the deadline. 2026, maybe January or February or May.
Yes.
Then we say what do we do?
But that's dangerous.
That's dangerous.
It's a repeat of what happened in February 8, 2021, when the current president has said the president in office in Somalia's mandate has lapsed.
That is what some politicians now in federal member state levels, the position they say. You don't have the president, don't have the mandate, and he's no longer president of Jubaland.
Correct.
And the same is in Southwest, the same in the Galmudug.
Yes.
So that could apply the president himself also. If we reach the deadline and we passed, they might say, no, stop, Mr. President.
We've seen these already.
Yes.
What is happening is a repeat of what we have seen from 2017 all the way to 2022. Amazing.
But what I'm asking you is it possible to avoid all these traps? And to go to somewhat like in harmony with the...
It had been possible, and it had been possible for the president when he was freshly elected in May 15, 2022.
Yes.
He had a fresh mandate.
Yes.
All he had to do was deliver the elections, the first elections in Southwest state, because the mandate of Abdulaziz Laftagan was lapsing in December of 2022.
Yes.
But instead, the president went to Baidoa and had a political settlement with Laftagan.
Yes.
And he kept buying time, and they also wanted such arrangements.
Yes.
So what really happened was, we find ourselves where we are now. And even as you asked me that question, this is a question for the president. He has to deliver elections. It's his responsibility as the elected leader of the country.
Yes.
He's the president of the republic.
Right.
So if he doesn't explain his rationale when he keeps extending mandates for the federal member states,
Yes.
his opposition members are saying, it's because he also wants to extend his mandate.
Yes.
Or don't leave.
But some questions also rise from this thing. Is there any back channels or something hidden behind the curtains that there is a special engagement between the president and federal member state leaders?
I will quote you, and you said there are always back channels in Somali politics. That's what you once told me.
Yes.
The more important issue here is the president willing to deliver the elections? He has the mandate.
Yes.
He has 2 years remaining in his office. What is his plan? And I do hope this Friday the president addresses that issue in the mosque. If he comes back and goes to the mosque in the office in Villa Somalia, he has to address this issue. You have mentioned it at the beginning of our podcast. It's the elephant in the room.
Yes.
And nobody else can fix it, but he only can fix it.
Can fix.
Or he should offer an explanation on what the plan is here. Matter of fact, speaking about elections,
Yeah.
one member of the NCC,
Yes.
Puntland,
Okay.
Said Deni, got re-elected. The president congratulated.
Yes.
The president went to his inauguration.
Yes. Yeah.
But the president failed to bring Said Deni to the dialogue table of the NCC 2 times now. Does that reflect well on the president because he is the leader of the country?
I think the president would hope that all federal member state leaders will join the NCC meeting.
It doesn't take hold. It takes action.
Yes, and that was his plan, but see, don't show up.
Yeah.
So I think what are the arguments Mr. Said Deni have?
Yes.
Just to blame the government or the president himself.
Yeah.
It was the president's responsibility to take the lead and engage the Puntland leader.
Yeah.
Just to pass this impasse or something like that.
Because the only job of the NCC is dialogue, is political dialogue towards consensus. That's the only job of the NCC.
Maybe there is a hope also that when UN Secretary General reappointed Mr. James Swan again back to Somalia.
Yeah.
So maybe we are hearing now that he's engaging all parties, especially Puntland and President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud, just to re-engage again or to solve the problems or the between them. So maybe he has a new approach or maybe something like that, a new initiative, just to end this conflict. Maybe, and I think this is one of his main jobs. For
the good of the country, let's hope there are only back channels, and that we're going to have a full NCC that gives us an election timeline.
Right.
Because that is the main issue in this country. So the NCC,
yes,
as an entity for political dialogue, we've mentioned this.
Yes.
Is one of the many stakeholders towards direct elections in this country.
Yes.
So, but the other stakeholders, Parliament's a stakeholder, the public is a stakeholder, civil society stakeholder, me and you as stakeholders, even the opposition stakeholders.
Yes, there's many stakeholders.
Yes.
But from the government perspective, the federal member states and the government is the main is the stakeholders.
Yeah.
But I want to mention the day the NCC was established back in 2013, I think, or 14. I don't know.
Yeah.
That day, the power of the legislative body and executive body of the government was hijacked. And still, it's hijacked.
By the NCC.
By the NCC. So it's normally the legislative body who legislated the things, then the government implements and something like that.
Yeah.
But the NCC is like alternative for politicians to hijack the power.
For leaders.
For leaders, yeah.
Correct. Let's get to the possibility of direct elections. The first obstacle, even if there is no political dialogue, the first obstacle for the government is the formation of the commission.
Yes.
Don't you say so? Commission for elections.
Of the elections, of the election committee.
Yes.
The adopted amendment of the constitution now says there will be 18 member of election committee.
Correct.
So that election committee must be independent.
Correct.
And then how we formulate that that committee.
Yes.
Some sources say the government thinks of to
unilaterally appoint 18 member
by the basis of 4.5 formula.
Okay.
But some other sources says no, it must be formed by federal members as representatives. Okay. So 2 or 3 or from here or from inside that in equal division. But I don't know which way they will adopt. Yeah. But the formation of the electoral committee will be also another challenge for the elections.
If the federal government takes the lead in forming the 18-member commission, it gives advantage to the federal government.
Yes.
But if the federal member states have input
on
who sits in the commission of elections,
then
it means also they have some leverage. Over the federal government and direct elections.
And I think that will be the case, or that will be the option or final option and advantage for the government and for the federal member states.
So, by and large, we have the NCC meeting and their communique, which we discussed now. We've said there is technical extension. One extension after another. We have said the election timeline was not specific on the last communique, even when 3 of the 6 members of the NCC have legitimate question because their mandates lapsed.
And maybe the 4th will have legitimate question also when the time passes.
When the time comes.
Yes.
So what we're saying is trust is a very elusive thing in politics. So possibly there will be a grand betrayal here. Either the president ensures to buy time for the leaders of the federal member states, or he may actually decide, since they don't have mandate, to go ahead and hold elections on their behalf, force them to hold elections, or they may decide to betray the president and go ahead and have their own small elections like they usually do.
And when that grand betrayal happens, regardless of who does it, the biggest loser is us.
Correct.
As a Somali people.
Correct.
So we will suffer another unknown time. Just to have this turbulent situation politically and security and everything like that.
And we were at the brink of civil war 2 years ago, because of uncertainties of the elections, because there was no dialogue and because there was no consensus on the model of election, the timeline of elections. So in the end, it's not the NCC that's losing. In the end, it's the people, the Somalis, that are losing.
The culture of dialogue and engagement is rooted with the Somali culture.
Correct.
And always, as our current president says always, in his speeches, he says,
which implies, if you're going to ask for dialogue later, don't refuse dialogue today.
Yes, that's the correct translation. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Ali. That does it for this week. See you next week. Goodbye.